Very well. We continue with our learning session of Excel functions. So we've been learning a number of Excel functions since we started with this template that is showing on my screen here. If you check my screen, it has some data, and this data is a sample data that we came up with to help us understand and learn about various Excel functions. This sample data is for a learning institution where we came up with random scores for the students. We have 5 subjects there for the students. We used various Excel functions that we started with. So if you are new and you are getting this thing for the first time, I would want to encourage you to go to my bio, check the videos that I've posted before, the videos about these Excel functions, where we started until where we are, so that you'll be able to catch up and make sure you can practice it on your own, because it is through practice that you get to master it best. So just to review through the functionalities that we had covered, I'm not going into details because that video is actually here. You can still go back and get to acquaint yourself with it. So we discussed a very interesting Excel function, that is the rand between function. We used the rand between functions to come up and generate random scores for the students per subject for all the subjects that we have. Then we went ahead and differentiated between highlighting and autofilling. Sometimes we call it dragging. I demonstrated, I explained what is the difference and how do you do highlighting and how do you autofill and the objectives of each of that, right? The third functionality, which we already learned, is how do you move cell contents. It can be one cell. It can be a range of cells. How do you move cell contents from one section of the spreadsheet to another, from one region to another? You can conveniently move them. I demonstrated that, and if you did not attend or maybe get to view the previous video on that, kindly go to the profile and check it out. It will help you understand it best. Then we learned about the sum. How do you get the totals? And that's how we were able to generate the total marks or the total scores for all the subjects for the students. So we used 3 approaches. There is the manual way, there is using the sum function in Excel, there is using the alt equals functionality again in Excel. Again, you can review the same and do it on your end so that you make sure you are well acquainted with it. We went ahead and got the mean scores for these students, where we were able to use the average functionality in Excel, and we got the mean scores for each student from student number 1 to number 10. We went ahead again and employed the use of the maximum and the minimum functionalities to help us get the highest mean score and the lowest mean score. You can see we already got the figures there showing on my screen. Now today, I want us to use the next function, that is the rank function, to help us come up with the positions of the students. How do you position the students? And when using the rank function, there is something interesting I want you to note. And let us start with the first student, and we see how we apply the rank function to come up with the positions of the students. Now we go together, and I encourage you, some of these things, it is best if you practice it on your end also. You will get to understand it so easily. So I will go to the first student and put an equal sign. Then I just type rank. As I mentioned before, and I still repeat, Excel functions is not guesswork. You must be specific on the type of function you have, because most Excel has thousands and thousands of functions. And like you've seen, I've just typed rank, and you can see all these functions go with the word rank. So if you're not sure of the type of rank that you're picking, you might end up picking the wrong one. So you need to be very careful of the functions that you pick. And Excel is kind enough, the developers are kind enough to give you a description besides each and every function, so that you can have to read what is the function about, what does it return to you, what results can it give you, what does it do. So I would want us to navigate to the third function here, which is the rank function, and we can actually read the description there. Can you see there is written, it returns the rank of a number in a list of numbers. So this one it is giving the rank, the size relative to other values in a list, within a range of numbers. So it will rank them. It will give you a number. Now, we pick it. You know how we pick? We mentioned before that you pick it using either double clicking or you use the tab key. I like using my tab key. So I'll go ahead and pick it using my tab key like that. What is it asking us to put in? The first element, number. How do you pick the number? We are ranking the students based on their mean scores, guys. So we already came up with the mean scores. So that means we have everything we need. So let's go to the mean score of the first student and click on it. You just click once. Do not double click. Just click it once. Then you can see cell reference, cell K7 is already there. So that is the number that we are referring to. And we want to get the position. We want to rank that first student according to that mean score in relation to all the mean scores of the 10 students that we have. That takes us to the next element in that function that we're supposed to key in. So just go ahead and put a comma. Then it is taking you to something written there, reference. Now, reference is we are ranking the first student. We've already told Excel that this is the score of that student. Then we are ranking it based on some reference. Reference is the range of numbers from which we are doing the ranking. So we go and highlight the whole range of numbers so that we can be able to rank the students depending on the numbers, the size of the numbers within that range. So we go ahead and highlight the range of mean scores and make sure when highlighting, you start highlighting even from that first student's mean score. Do not leave it out. Why? Because you want to rank it based on the whole list. So you cannot skip it. So we go ahead and highlight the whole range of numbers from which we are doing the ranking. You get that? Very nice. Very, very nice. Very nice there. Beautiful. So after you've done that, my friends, I want you to be careful. I want you to note something. Once you've highlighted the range of numbers from which you are doing the ranking, the next thing you want to do, remember in Excel, when you move, we've learned about some function. There is a function we learned about that is autofilling or dragging. Whenever you want to autofill a formula, because once we've done it for this first student, we are not going to repeat the same for the rest of the 9 remaining students. No, Excel gives us this powerful tool called autofilling or dragging. That's what we're going to use to make sure we also get the positions of all the other students. Now, there is one thing you need to note. When you are dragging from one cell to the next because you are autofilling, you must make sure that Excel do not leave out your range of reference table or reference range of cells, reference numbers. Remember, we want to rank each and every student based on and in comparison to all the mean scores for the rest of the students. So we must tell Excel that please, as you rank each of these students, make sure you refer to the same range. As you give me the rank of that particular student, make sure you refer to the same specific range of cells. Do not shift. As I drag and as I move from one cell to the next to give me the position of the next student, please refer to the same. That leads us to another important functionality that I want to show you. Which one is it? Cell referencing. Very important concept. That leads us to something called cell referencing. Cell referencing. And before I go to cell referencing, because that is a whole new discussion and it's very interesting. Very interesting. Now, to fix, there is one type of cell referencing. We have 3 types of cell referencing. There is an absolute cell referencing. There is mixed cell referencing. There is partial cell referencing. Yeah. So when you do absolute cell referencing is you are completely locking a range of data, either a cell or a range of data, so that you tell Excel that please rank each student, but please refer to this specific range. Always refer to it as you rank, so that we are ranking based on certain parameters. You get that? So when we come here, how do we lock? I will come up with a whole session to teach how we are doing the types of cell referencing, the absolute, the partial and the mixed. We will come up with a whole session to teach that. But for today, please just bear with me. If you've not met it before, just bear with me. We are using F4 key or function F4 key depending on the alignment and the type of keyboard that you have. On my case, I will use function F4. F4 key, there are function keys at the top of your keyboard. There are function keys next to the escape key. There is F1, F2, F3. So just use that F4 key. When you type it once, it will introduce dollar signs on the cell, on the column and row cell references within that range of the reference table or reference range of numbers we are choosing. So I said I will create a whole session to teach about cell referencing, but for today, you will forgive me. Let's just continue and finish this ranking first. Now, once I've fully locked it by introducing the dollar signs using F4 key or function F4, but you can as well go ahead and do it manually. You can use the shift key and the 4 key. Shift and 4. When you look at letter number 4 on your keyboard, you will see it has some dollar sign on top, right? When you click on shift and you tap on that number 4, dollar sign shows up. So you can insert it manually if you don't want stress. But for now, let's continue. Now, after I've done that, I will put, now, I mentioned something in the previous session. Whenever you get Excel function with a parenthesis element within it, that is not a must. It is not compulsory. Like now you can see mine, after reference, there is a bracket and something written there, order. Because it is given a bracket, that means it is not compulsory. I do not have to put in any element there. Again, I mentioned before, you do not have to close every Excel formula function. That bracket, Excel will close it for me, but I can as well go ahead and close the bracket. But as for now, I just want to leave it open and hit on, Control Enter, and there we go. We have a position. I want us to test it, right? We have a position for student number 1, right? Now, let's check on the first student. What is the mean score of the first student? It is 68.2. Let's see, is it really position 2? Now, let's look. What is the highest score? 72. From the function that we already used, and then the lowest score is 46, right? Now, if the highest is 72, and Excel is telling us that first student is number 2, that means how many mean scores are above 68.2? Let me see, that 72, which is actually the highest. That should be the number 1 student. Then if I check on the others, there is no any other score which is above 68. So actually, this is correct. The first student is actually position 2. Now we go ahead and autofill. You know how we use the autofilling function. That's why learning these things is very important. They are all interconnected. You learn it, you use it. You learn it, you use it. And at the end of the day, once you have the comprehensive knowledge of all of it, you'll find it seamless. You will use it and it will make your work so easy. So like here, I will just grab this angry rabbit by the tail. The angry rabbit, I grab it by the tail. I can either pull the tail to the end by dragging, or I can just hit it twice, double tap, it will autofill. I like using the double tap one, because maybe you can have a bigger range of data. You have, for example, 10,000 or 1,000 rows and above. How long will you take to drag it? A lot of time, right? But if you use the autofilling functionality of double tap, or maybe hitting it twice from the tail, then it will autofill it automatically. So that's why I love using it instead of the manual dragging way. So I will just come here and tap it twice and you will see it has autofilled it. Now, do not worry about my numbers changing. We used a functionality called the rand between. These scores are random. Everything will change. Whenever I edit anything within the worksheet, then the random numbers keep changing. So that should not worry you, so long as it is within the range we had set. Remember, when using the rand between function, we had set a range of between 30 and 90. That is the range of our scores. You remember that? If you do not remember, please go back and check on it. Good. Now, let's check again. Before our random numbers changed, student 1 was number 2, right? Now, it is telling us the opposite. It is telling us the opposite. Why? Because our random scores have changed, and that was not a problem. We can still check. What is the highest score now? It is 74. Lowest is 49. Now, we are being told, let's check student number 1. Student number 1 has 74. You can see it is student number 2 has 74. What is the highest score? It is still 74. Correct. Let's check who is the student number 2 now. Student number 2 is this one, student number 9 with 69.4. Is it true? Because if you check any number above 69.4 here, only one, the 74 mean score. Who is the number 1? So actually, this is the correct number 2. The last student should have the lowest mean score. Lowest mean score according to our function here is 49.2, and it is the same one which is here. So actually, this is the student number 10, the least, the lowest position. So I hope you've learned how we are using those functionalities. This is very nice. In the next session, we are going to see how do we do grading, how do we insert comments, and in a learning institution or a learning setup, comments can be various comments. You can say promoted to the next class, or maybe repeat, or maybe you can say, for example, weak, you can say very good, you can say average. So you can always give comments given the parameters through which you want to give the comments. So the comment section is normally open, but we will choose the most common ones that we relate with. For now, allow me to stop there. We've learned something and we keep learning. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share so that we learn together. See you in the next one. Thank you. Very nice.